It is Magic 107.5, 97.5, the real sound of Atlanta. Jackie Paige doing a live edition of Girl Talk today. Something a little different because we're talking about a different subject matter. It is the month of June. We are approaching Juneteenth. And I thought it would be a perfect time for us to start talking about our legacy and what we leave on to our family. And I'm super excited to have, clearly we're twinning right now.
Girl, listen. Y'all, this was not planned.
It was not. It was not. I walked in today and I'm like, Jini, were you in my closet? Like, how did this happen?
Girl.
But from Thank Me Later, Jini Thornton, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to have you.
Yeah. I'm so excited to be talking about this.
Yes, this is a conversation that has to be had. And I'm a little afraid to actually have this conversation.
Most people are, though.
So, family, Juneteenth is right around the corner. We got to talk about legacy planning. It has to happen. Life is going to life. And at some point in time, family will pass away.
Yeah.
So what do we do to make sure that we have ourselves in order so that when that moment does happen, you're not scrambling around to try to find stuff. People aren't taking stuff.
Yeah.
So I thought it was important to have Jini here. So Jini, really quickly, before we get into this much needed conversation, just, tell the people a little bit about yourself.
So first of all, thank you again, Jackie,
You're
for
welcome.
having me and for talking about something that we typically as Black people don't talk about enough. And so happy to have the conversation. So again, Jini Thornton, it's funny, as I walked into the station today, I started working with the station in 1996. Isn't that crazy?
That is.
They were still on Old National Highway. So I have been the money expert for Radio 1 since 1996, the finance expert. But I am a CPA, business manager in the entertainment industry. I have been for 29 years. I founded and own my own firm. But legacy planning has really become a passion of mine.
Yeah.
But it happened because of radio. And I would start hearing from people, Jackie, when people died. And people were calling me looking for help. My husband, my wife, my sister, my son, whomever passed away, can you help me? And I was like, what is going on? Because that was not my personal experience in my family. And I was like, you know what? We have to do something about this. And so it became our mission at Thank Me Later to not only talk about legacy planning, and we need to define that for people, because a lot of people are like, girl, what does that even
legacy
mean?
Planning?
But it became my mission to actually be part of the solution instead of just telling people what to do.
Yeah.
And that's how we created our Black Women Will event, where we actually prepare wills for free. That all was really born because of radio. And so, I know, it's near and dear to my heart, too. I know, girl.
The things that we do.
The things that we do.
It's great. So let's get into it. What is legacy?
I think people can define legacy different ways because, I think we immediately think about money or assets.
Yes.
We think about stuff. But I also think about order. I think about peace. I think about a smooth transition. I think about a family staying together and working on one accord. So legacy planning is, however, it can mean so many different things, but they're just some core fundamental things. Is you want to make sure that whatever you have, a little bit or a whole lot, that it's clear on who's going to get it. It's clear on who's going to be in charge when something happens to you. But also, if you have children, like who do you want to raise your kids? You're making that type of decision too. That's part of legacy planning.
And see, I didn't know that was a part.
Oh,
Again,
my gosh.
In my head, kind of like you just said, I'm thinking assets.
That's only one piece of it.
I'm thinking money.
Yeah. Legacy planning is really about order. And what you're saying is, this is who I want to be in charge. This is who I want to raise my kids. This is who I want to receive whatever I have. And then there's some other documents, even if you don't pass away, maybe you're ill, you have a healthcare directive. These are the people or the person that I want to make these type of decisions on my behalf. Because see, what happens is, and what we all should be concerned about is, you could have the wrong family member raise their hand.
This is true.
And because we know our families.
Yeah, you're right.
We love them dearly, but we need to be able to pick who we want to run the show And it's not just about money. And I think we get so focused on the money, we forget about all these other important decisions.
And I think some of that is because, again, it's a conversation that's not had.
Yes.
When we talk about legacy, especially in the Black community, it usually is just what monetarily are you leaving to the next generation or the next person. We don't talk about, like you said, who's making decisions, who's taking care of the kids, who's doing. We don't talk about that stuff.
We don't talk about it. And because we think it's about money, then that means we're not talking about any of it.
Right.
And that's where it gets really scary, because now everyone's under stress or duress, and it typically does not go well. And then it takes 10 times longer for you to wind up someone's affairs. And it doesn't have to be that hard. You can't find anything. You know what I mean? You don't know who to call. You can't find anything. You don't know who's in charge. And now families are fighting versus saying, okay, it's clear. Here's the plan. All we have to do now is just follow the plan as it's laid out. And think about how that feels. Because, death is, I know, death is hard. Death is hard. So now you're giving your family the gift of just being able to grieve and not have to sort through, find, and fight, and people are jockeying, coming to the house, taking stuff out the house, because there's no plan. We have to have a plan and make a commitment to the plan. Legacy planning is actually a gift to the people that you care about.
So at what age, what stage of life should you start thinking about or start that process of legacy planning? Because I'm complete transparency, I don't have any kids.
Right.
So in my head, what do I need to plan for if I don't have no kids?
And let me tell you something. That is just something that I really learned within the last couple of years, dealing with amazing women like you who I would meet, and they were like, well, Jini, I don't have a will, and I didn't do this because I don't have kids. And I'm like, that's only a small piece of it. Because if you have acquired anything, a house, if you have a bank account, if you have a retirement account, if you have a car, who's going to get it? If something happens to you, who do you want to be in charge? You know what I mean? You have to still lay all of that stuff out. If you have nieces or nephews that you want to get something in particular, you have to decide that. Maybe it's your church. Maybe it's your alma mater. You have to make those decisions, because otherwise now someone else will make those decisions. So when do you start the process? I think it can start at a couple different times. One, for those people who do have a family, I think it's important that you begin to make those decisions right away.
Okay.
Because God forbid something happens, you want to make the decision, who is going to raise your kids? If both parents are gone, who is going to be next? A lot of times the people who are raising their hand are not the people that you would pick. That's kind of scary.
Yeah.
Second thing is when you begin to start accumulating. Because now if you have a bank account, a retirement account, and again, people, I don't mean millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you own a home, you need to have a plan. You need to have a plan. So again, I don't want people to think about it, oh my God, it's just so hard and it's going to take all this work and it costs thousands of dollars. If you're an adult and you're out here living, someone needs to be able to step in your shoes if something happens to you.
So this is going to be a really interesting question.
Okay.
Can I make my plans on just like a sheet of paper out of a notebook and like hand it to my mom? Or does that suffice as, oh, I've done some legacy planning?
Right. That is a myth.
Okay.
That is not true. And that is very common in our community.
It is.
Because people are like, I already told my sister. I already told my mom what I want.
I wrote it down on a sheet of paper.
I already wrote it down on a sheet of paper. So do you have to go through the formality of having to hire a lawyer and all of that? You don't have to do that. But you do need to have a document that has been witnessed, signed, and notarized.
Okay.
Because how do we know that you wrote it? How do we know that? How do we know that? So we need to be able to prove that you wrote it.
So when you say witness, do you mean as I'm writing stuff out, I need to have somebody sitting there watching me write?
No, what I mean is when you go to get it notarized, you know how you can go to the UPS store or whatever and get documents notarized? With a will, but it also depends upon the state. In the state of Georgia, you have to have 2 people who are not affiliated with you witness your signature.
Okay.
So in addition to the notary notarizing it, signing it, you have to have 2 witnesses, because we have to make sure that you, Jackie, are the one who actually signed this document. So you have to go through the formality of that process. And there are some other things that you can do that are kind of simple too, though. And I think these are the things that people overlook. Have you ever heard of a POD, or payable on death? Have you ever heard of a POD?
So I actually have. And that was through you.
Okay. When we did the Coria's event. Yes.
So, and it's all being completely truthful.
Yeah.
I actually did that right after I talked. After we met. We had that conversation.
Right.
I went home immediately that day, did that.
Right.
And then talked to my mother about it. My mother didn't even know that was a thing. So she ended up putting that on all of her accounts too.
And so I want people to understand this, that legacy planning is like this roadmap. It's this curvy roadmap, but there are lots of things that you can do other than just getting your will done. So payable on death, a POD or TOD, transfer on death. You could literally go to your bank, or if you invest money with Charles Schwab, Vanguard, or whomever, and you could literally add on the account, this is who I want to get the money after I'm gone. This is not adding them as joint. Because people are like, girl, I don't want nobody to have to ask, girl, listen.
That's my money.
That's my money.
Okay.
But at least now, if something happens, that person immediately can have access to those funds. People don't understand how difficult it is to get access to someone's bank account when they have passed away.
And I think that's one of the reasons why we struggle with, and I'm being completely honest throughout this whole conversation.
Sure.
I felt as though it would be a lot easier. Like it shouldn't be difficult.
Right.
My last name, mom's last name, or father's last name. You should be able to just get this information.
Go to the bank and get access to a loved one's bank account without a letter from probate court. You have to go to court. You have to go to court. It's not like, oh, that's my daughter and here's my... No. Unless she's joint on the account, or unless she is the POD, payable on death, there is no access. Frozen. You must go to probate court, file paperwork to get your letters of administration, and then take them to the bank. Do you know how long that takes?
I was going to ask you, how long
Weeks.
is that process? Oh.
Weeks. It could be weeks or months. So again, time is money.
You're right.
Time is money. So there are very small things you can do. Another thing that's important is, think about how important it is just to be organized. Like, if you can put your hands on your mother's, where's all her important papers? Where's her life insurance papers? Where are the passports and the birth certificates? And like, just knowing that, do you realize how much time that saves? The number of people that I hear from who can't find things. So think about it. Someone is either sick or they've passed away, and you can't find the paperwork. Girl, it is like your level of stress is like up to here. All completely preventable, just being organized. So again, these are some very small things that have very, very significant impact. So you got to get your stuff together, of course, but you also have to make sure, you're probably like me. You're probably the person in your family where people are going to expect you to be the one to step up. But can you get your hands on your loved one's stuff? I know you have 2 brothers. Like, hey, y'all, like, what's up? Where's your stuff at?
And to be completely honest, again, I'm being honest a lot right now. I don't know where their stuff is, and I couldn't tell you where my parents' stuff was either.
But that is normal. But what we have to do is say, okay, we know that's a problem, and now we have to have either like a family money meeting or a family fire drill. And what I do is I have 2 adult sons. I have one son that lives in Atlanta. My other son lives in Houston, and I make sure at least typically twice a year, like I literally do a fire drill. Okay, pull out your phone, boo. Like, okay, I want to make sure you know who the lawyer is, who the accountant is.
And I don't know any of that.
I make them, Mom, I know. Okay, no, you're going to pull it out again. I make sure, open the safe. Okay, I make them do that. Here's all the important papers. We go over that at least twice a
And
year
I don't.
because I needed to be fresh.
We haven't done
Because
any of
under
that.
stress or duress, I needed to be muscle memory. Like, let's go.
Now, I will say my father and my mother have both told me that they have their affairs in order.
Right.
But they haven't gone into detail as far as where those affairs
Where?
are,
Yeah.
who we need to be talking to in the event
Yes.
of something happening. So I know things are together.
Right.
But I just don't know
Where.
Right.
And so that's the next step for you and your
Mhm.
siblings, because you got to know where it is. And then also, you just talked about the important people. Like, who do you call?
Yeah, I'm like, Ghostbusters?
Yeah.
I don't know who I'm calling.
And it's funny, my mother passed away in 2000, and she had been sick only about 4 months before she passed away. But I say, my mom gave me the greatest gift of all is I knew where every single thing was. I knew every single person to talk to. So I was able to be like, boom, 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 like to get through the list. And it was 100% my responsibility, but at least I was very empowered, and it allowed me to tick everything down. And so now I can grieve.
Yeah.
Now I can grieve. But like, you gotta know the stuff. And it seems so simple, right? Like, who to call, where's the stuff at? But girl, if you don't know that stuff, it is a hot mess. The pressure is on.
And in my head, I just think, oh, when we get to that time, then their affairs are in order. So when we get to that time, that's when I'll, figure that information out.
Right.
But, like you said, some of this is the planning. They've done their planning part. I think it's time for me to do my part and know where that stuff is.
Right.
So that when situations do happen, everybody is on one accord.
On one accord. And it doesn't even have to be death.
Yeah.
It could just be an illness.
And see, we don't think about that either.
Yeah, it could be an illness. It could be, you could be in the hospital for a month with pneumonia, so you have to be able to step in someone's shoes very quickly and move. You have to be able to do that. And Jackie, it's funny, I'm just thinking about what you said. You didn't think it's the time, but you have to make the time now because we don't know when the time is.
How do you have that How do you have those conversations? Because in the Black community, let's be real.
Oh my gosh.
The conversation of death and sickness and illness, and we just don't want to have that conversation.
Not at all. Yeah. And it's funny. I don't care how educated we are, how many degrees, how much money we make. This is still a taboo topic. 72% of Black people die without a will, regardless of income or assets. 72% of us, regardless. So how do you have the conversation? I literally, if it were me, I would start the conversation with my siblings first.
Okay.
Just to say, hey guys, I know you have 2 brothers. I want to make sure that we are all on one accord about each other's stuff. I want to make sure that we're all good because you can't just focus on your parents. So
I didn't even think about my brothers. My brain is straight to the parents because I'm like,
you got to go to your brothers first because again, we're making assumptions based on age that we think people are going to get sick or pass away in a certain order. That does not exist.
Right.
But of course, we just naturally think that. I would start that because then it'll be easier to go to your parents to say, hey, this is what we've done. And this is what it's really created. So I don't have to know how much you have, but I need to, this is the information that we need to share. And we really like to get in the habit of us tapping in. We're going to do it at Thanksgiving and in August. I don't know, pick a couple times of year and literally commit to having that conversation and acknowledge that it's going to be uncomfortable. But, we know that we love each other. And this is a form of love that we're just not used to. This is a form of love. But please start with your brothers first. And then that will be interesting to see how your brothers respond.
I think I have one brother that'll be okay with it. And then the other one will be like, what are we having this conversation for? Like, bro, come on. It could go one way or the other with the other one. We don't know. But
we can't allow that one to determine the fact that we know that this has got to happen.
But that is a very good point that you make because, again, I did not think about my brothers at all.
You got to.
My brain is literally set on my grandparents, then my parents, then me, then my brothers. Yeah. I hadn't even thought about.
Oh my gosh. But again, you will model the behavior for the older people who it can be a little difficult for. So let me just tell you a quick story. So this is our 4th year of doing Black Women Will. So this year we'll help prepare wills for 250 women, wills and healthcare directives for free, right? we will help transfer about $87 million. Because if you don't own a home, we won't even help you. You got to have assets for us to help you. You have to own a home.
So what if you don't have a home, but you have a 401k?
Right. We can't help you at Black Women Will, but you certainly still need to get your stuff in order, though. So anyway, this year, we had, to our knowledge, we had our first person to pass away who got their documents done.
Wow.
She was 37 years old. Exactly. With a 3-year-old daughter. We were all like, what? And I mean, I was stunned. Because we help a lot of seniors.
Yeah.
We particularly focus on certain areas, like the Cascade Corridor, where we know property values have shot through the roof. It just never occurred to me that the first person that I would know about would be 37 years old. And then that let me know, we got to double down on the work now. Because you just think it's going to be the sweet little 90-something-year-old, who... whatever, passed away, and whatever.
Yeah.
This girl was 37 years old. She was 30 with a 3-year-old daughter. So life be life, and girl. Yeah. So we just have to be ready. And again, not to make it morbid, but it could be an illness. It could be a car accident. It could be whatever. But we just need to be able to step in our loved one's shoes and just kind of keep things going. Want to keep things going.
So for me, one of the first things that I need to do is have conversations with my brothers.
Please.
For people watching or listening right now, what would be like a first or second step for them to get started? Because a lot of this is very overwhelming. People don't know where to start. Right. I think the first thing that I did was the payable on death.
Payable on death.
That was the first thing I did.
Huge.
And that was because you said that.
Okay. High five, girl. Okay, we'll take that. Yes.
But what would you, and family?
Yes.
It's easy to do. I went online, all of my bank accounts, 2.5 seconds, and I was good to go.
Right.
And then I told my mother, and then she did it, and then she told my brothers to do the same thing. It takes all of 2.5 seconds. But what are some... 1, 2, 3, steps.
Where do you start?
Yeah, where do you start?
Well, I'd like to make sure people know that Black Women Will is a resource too, not just to do your estate planning. So you can go to blackwomenwill.com, and we have resources, information out there just to kind of direct people, because again, it is a journey. Yeah. There are multiple steps on the journey. You can also go to Thank Me Later, thankmelater.money. And you can join our community as well. We have a ton of resources, and we have some of the best subject matter experts ever who will walk you through all the stuff you need to do, estate planning and otherwise. But if it were me, I would do a couple of things. I would make sure that I'm personally organized. Okay. Where's my stuff? Where's all my important paper? Where's my important
Does it need to
people?
Be in a safe?
Preferably, not required. But just preferably, I'm just naturally a little paranoid about stuff, and so it just makes sense for me. Okay, it's in there.
So not in a folder, probably a little bit more.
If that's all you got, then daggone it, we're gonna work with the folder. Okay, but get organized, and we have to make sure that whoever the 1 or 2 people are who need to know, they can get their hands on it, because it's cool that you know.
Yeah, but
everyone else needs to know. So that's important. I would also make sure that I'm organizing my important people.
Okay.
So if it's oh wow, this is my lawyer, this is my accountant, this is whatever, I would send those contacts to my brothers.
Okay.
That way they know, oh, Jackie's accountant. You know what I mean? So that way they'll know, because you just never know who's going to need that. We have a resource guy that can also help people organize that. And after that, I just want to make sure that I have maybe done my POD, my payable on death. You can go to the bank, or you can go to your investment firm and get that done. Literally adding someone's name. They have access after you pass away. Again, 2.5 seconds. Winning.
Yeah.
Winning. So these to me are all the small things that I would do. And then if you want to get your will done, a lot of people don't realize it. Through your employer, a lot of employers will offer, through their EAP, the Employee Assistance Program, you can get reduced legal fees.
Didn't know that.
That's very common. You probably even have it here, but you can use those, you can use that as an option to potentially get your documents done. Because part of it is the will, but you got to have a healthcare directive. girl, you do not want to have the wrong person making decisions.
You're right.
Girl, and no, I do want to be resuscitated.
Yeah.
Or I don't want to
yeah.
be. You know, I do want to be fed intravenously through whatever all that is. You want to decide those things. So I want people to think about all the little pieces. It's not just the will, but there's these multiple documents, the healthcare directive, the power of attorney. You know, there's these other things that you may want to have, but do all those little things on the road to get to that. Because I don't want people to think, "Ooh, I'm not going to get a will. I'm not going to do anything." Girl, you can do it payable on death.
That's and I said it's easy. I did it. If I can do it, anybody can do it.
Sure enough, can.
Janai, really quickly before I let you go.
Yes.
One more time, where can people get information on everything that you're doing, and how can, I know you said Black women will. How can women get information on getting a part of that?
Okay, so our Black Women Will event this year will be Saturday, November 16th at Impact Church. We will help 250 women. And so all you have to do to apply is go to blackwomenwill.com. Again, blackwomenwill.com. You can certainly follow us on social media. Again, Black Women Will. But I would certainly go to the website. You can engage with me. It's Jini Thornton, JiniThornton. That's social media and my website. And my website will also direct people to all of these resources. Black Women Will, Thank Me Later. And I think, was that it? Did I answer everything?
I think you did.
Oh, my God. Okay,
Thank you so much for having this conversation with me, because this was enlightening in more ways than four. I just learned a lot. I just took away a lot. And I'm sure that the family just took away a lot, too. That's what we're here to do. We're here to make sure that as a family, as a community, that we're doing what we need to do to grow. And some of that growing is understanding that death will happen.
Yes.
And that you have to leave something for the next generation.
The direction. And just remember, all of this is a form of love. Doing this is really how you show somebody that you love them.
Absolutely love it.
Yes.
Janai, thank you again.
Thank you for having me, Jackie. My twins.
It's magic.